In December 2019, a novel virus called COVID-19 emerged in China and quickly spread throughout the world. Nations began to experience the drumbeat of COVID-19 illnesses, deaths, ambulance sirens, hospital shortages, and constant national and personal medical and economic challenges. The United States soon began to witness the emergence of the impact of the virus in New York City and other hotspots in other locations, including Florida. Gasparilla Island, an idyllic spit of land off the west coast of Florida, is known for its natural beauty, casual living, sun-filled days, breezes, beaches, parks, daily exercise, and a life of relative privilege. Visitors and residents rode golf carts, bicycles, walked, sailed, swam, and fished. They played golf, tennis, dined out, attended lectures, etc. The list of island pleasures was endless. To the outside world, Gasparilla Island seemed to be barely touched by the pandemic. The island now faced questions without simple answers. Why did this happen? How do we adapt? Where do we find the facts? When will it end? How will we remember the world we once knew? And what can we do to keep the Boca Grande spirit of community vibrant during unimaginable times? All of us are living history in the making. To answer how the fingers of the worldwide pandemic have touched our beloved island, the Boca Grande Historical Society and History Center, in partnership with Island TV, sought out the voices and experiences of frontline players. What follows is a sampling of their perspectives.
With the onset of COVID-19, a lot of guidance has been coming down from the CDC and from other health organizations. So as a community, as a fire department, we're trying to follow those guidelines, adhere to those guidelines as best we can, and as the fire department still continue to serve the community and provide the highest level of service that we can. The biggest thing for us is when we go on EMS calls and we're making patient contact, we are, depending on the type of call, the signs and symptoms that are given over the phone when the call is made, our dispatch will talk to that person or the caller and give us information. Based on that information that's given us is what we'll wear, how we'll wear it, and when we'll wear gear as far as COVID-19. EMS, Lee County EMS is going to go on that call. They're going to be the first people in. They're going to send one person in, and they're going to do a little more surveillance and a little more question asking and to see exactly what's going on. In this crisis right now, the hardest obstacle that we are faced with is the inability and the challenge to get PPE. So what we've been doing as a fire department across the state, or as the fire service, the fire community, and first responders we're doing everything we can to limit the burn rate of PPE, of our personal protective equipment. So therefore, that one person goes in, they kind of see what's going on, and then they'll contact the crews that are going to be outside, and they'll get back with them and tell them if they need more people, less people, what's going on. So therefore, if more personnel are needed, then more people don gear and then go in and provide patient care. But right now, we just can't be, everybody just can't suit up and send a whole crew in, and those mistakes were being made in the beginning in places, and that's why you had a high infection rate with first responders, because they were doing the same old thing, going in with the entire crew, and then we were getting accidental exposures. So that committing of personnel has now been pared down dramatically. So those are kind of the first things. So if you see that ambulance out in front of a house or a place of business, you may see somebody with the personal protective equipment on. It doesn't mean that person that they're taking care of has COVID-19. That just means there's a potential that they could, and we want to take every precaution that we can to keep the first responders safe, and also that patient. We don't want to cross-contaminate in either way, shape, or form. So it doesn't mean that somebody's sick, it just means that we're taking the precautionary measures that are recommended by the CDC, and those have changed in the last month or so. Those have kind of more more protection has been implemented. So we actually now will put a mask on a patient. Our personnel will wear what they call an N95 mask. Those get worn on all calls, gloves and eye protection with any person in contact, because we just don't know. So we want to make sure that we're taking the best care that we can. So COVID-19, as far as the aspect of the whole island, obviously with the social distancing, that has put a big hamper on the normal spring break activities and the normal season. Basically, it has just shut it down to almost nothing. The population on the island, the visitors, the day trippers have become virtually none, and all the restaurants are shut down except for takeout delivery, and the non-essential businesses is pretty much closed, and that's all in an effort to try to reduce the human interaction so that we can lower the infection rate. So that's going on island-wide and pretty much statewide at this point, and it is making an impact. We can see that now in the numbers. They seem to be plateauing at this point. As far as the station, back to the fire department, right now we're not letting anybody in the building except for our non-essential personnel. Nobody comes in unless they absolutely have an absolute function or there's just some good reason why they need to be in the building. Every morning our crews have their temperature checked, and then once again during the day, throughout the day, we're checking crew temperatures. We don't want any of our folks to come in with a bug and then accidentally spread it throughout our personnel. We only have so many folks, and if we get a whole sick shift, we could be down a third of the department or worse. So we have to keep our guys and girls healthy so that we can serve the public like we're supposed to. Again, as a community, as an island, as long as everybody can continue to do those things, at some point it'll get better. We just have to be aware of what we're doing and where we're going and the things that we're doing, and this too shall pass, just like all other emergencies. So I appreciate the time. If anybody has anything or has a question, they can certainly call. We're still answering the phone. We can, if you do have to come to the door, we have a call box on the door. We can talk to you through the door. We're still administering hurricane passes. You can go to our website at bocagrandefire.com. You can download the application, you can mail it to us, or you can email it. There's instructions on the website on how to do that. We want to continue to keep that process going, and we're just looking forward to this being over and getting back out and seeing everybody.
We're sitting with Ashley Scarpa to talk about how coronavirus has impacted Scarpa's restaurant in downtown Boca Grande. It's very nice to meet you.
Nice to see you.
So tell me, how have things been since coronavirus has kind of taken over our little universe of Boca Grande?
It's definitely been very anxious and just kind of uncharted territory. We really don't know where we're going right now. We really sort of thought we had made it through the hard part, which, as everyone knows, is slow time, summertime in Boca Grande. We were on the home stretch. It was almost our 1-year anniversary. We were sort of supposed to be kind of in like those strong months to carry us through the slow times, and then just out of nowhere, coronavirus came and really kind of just shut our entire operation down for the most part. So we really just had to quickly think, what can we do? We immediately went into how can we save the employees, how can we keep them floating. We kind of keep using this analogy referring to our restaurant as like the ship, and how can we keep the ship from sinking so that there is a vessel to come back to once we get through this virus. So trying to keep the employees' heads above water, we quickly adapted to stopping our breakfast program when we learned that we had to go into a to-go model. Most people don't get to go for breakfast, so we quickly initiated Scarpa subs, which we do at lunch, and then just to-goes for dinner. And while it's been wonderful and we feel like the town's been super supportive, we still are only capable of doing about 10 to 15% of the sales daily that we should be doing right now, because the island just is very, light. There's not a ton of people here with the inn closed. So just trying to be as adaptable as we can and, be smart going forward.
So as far as your employees go, you must have like a skeleton crew right now that are helping you do the to-go orders that you have?
We do. We have kept our staff, and so we have split the shifts up. Each server gets 3 shifts a week. They usually get either 2 lunch and 1 dinner, or vice versa. And luckily, you know, Islanders have been generous with tipping. So while it's still nowhere near what they would typically make, we do feel like the people on the island know that the service industry is really struggling, and they are doing what they can, even when they just pick up a sub, you know, with tipping.
Right.
And so that has been helpful,
Right.
and a little bit of a silver lining in all of this. But it's still just really, really hard, and there's a lot of stress and a lot of anxiety with our staff. And so we're just kind of trying to take it one day at a time and do what we can to make sure that everything is still in place once this passes.
Yes, and we're hoping that'll pass
I know.
fairly quickly.
Yes.
So as far as your staff is concerned, do they have to do any preparations that are different now than they were
Yes.
doing before?
Yeah, so it's interesting, like when staff comes in, we have to screen them, you know, ask questions about how are they feeling, do they have any cough, any new symptoms. We have been taking temperatures as well. We have them wash and sanitize to the point that like we're dealing more with like raw hands and all sorts of discomforts that we're not used to. But just try to be very diligent. In the restaurant business, a lot of these procedures are kind of already in place. Sanitation and being clean is like of the utmost importance in a
Right.
restaurant. So not a ton changes in that field. It's funny, like when all these recommendations come out, most people in the industry are like, we've already been doing most of
Right,
this.
right.
But just kind of like inching it up a level just so that we can do our part to keep our customers safe as well. And then we want to be safe on our end when customers are coming in too. So just being hyper vigilant on being clean and sanitary and things like that.
So how do you see the reopening going when you're finally able to reopen? And do you have an estimated guess of when you think that might be able to be? But plus we're also going to be going into where season
Right.
here will end.
Right.
So how do you foresee perhaps the summer being at Scarpa's?
Right. So we don't really know. And I think that's what's probably scariest about this whole thing, being that this is our first year. May 6th is 1-year anniversary. We don't really know. We do know that because we've lost season, essentially, we are basically having the longest summer ever, you know, in terms of income and things like that.
Right.
We do look forward to opening. I mean, I imagine like fireworks and confetti when it happens because we just are all like missing it so much. But I really don't know. That's the part that I think is the scariest because we have to continue on this trend in Boca Grande of not really making money until we get to kind of like the holiday months.
Right.
And so that's a really long time. So we've applied for aid where we can, but we just don't know if that's going to be enough. So we are just kind of being hopeful and prayerful and doing good and hoping that good comes back to us in some way or another, and that somehow all works out because we want nothing more than to be here when this is all said and done.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So in the interim, my understanding is you have also made masks that you're
Yes.
giving away.
Yes.
So can you tell us a little bit about
Sure.
that?
So I was making masks for staff, specifically here because there's a lot of visitors who come in from different places. So anxiety was really high with some of my staff. They needed to work, they wanted to work, but they were a bit afraid. So I sew, and I said I'll sew masks, and I'll just kind of put it out there. If anyone else needs a mask, I can make more masks. And I had no idea the can of worms that I opened. And we had over 500 people, or 500 requests for masks come out. So I quickly sent a message to staff and said, guys, I can't do this by myself. Does anyone know how to sew? And just like that, I mean, we had about 10 of our staff members who for 9 days straight, we sewed 500 masks until we ran out of supplies.
Wonderful.
And we're able to take donations for that. Those donations went to the staff, which was so fabulous. They needed that. And then we were able to provide a service, which felt great to help and give back to the community.
That's wonderful.
Yes,
So you
yes.
got to do something for the community
That's
that
right.
perhaps you never would have had to do.
Never, yeah.
in
I
any
never
other kind
imagined
of right
sewing
to do
500
that.
masks, but it was great, and we were happy to do it.
So how do you think the coronavirus has affected you personally, perhaps your family, and what do you think that we're supposed to be learning from the coronavirus?
Well, first of all, it's been a very humbling, experience. I prior to this, I just ran 2 fine dining Italian restaurants, and I joke around and say, now I have a sweatshop and a sub shop. So in some regards, it's been super humbling, but really it has just kind of made you aware that, you know, I mean, life is short. We don't know what's around the corner, and that, you know, you really just can't worry. You just have to try to put your faith in your community and, you know, the powers that be, and in God, and just, you know, kind of do the best that you can and get through, and hopefully that will be enough when it's all said and done.
And I think people really are getting back to basics.
Yes.
And so the ability at some point to be able to go and take your family out to dinner
Yes.
is going to be probably more of a celebration
Yes.
perhaps than it was when we couldn't go.
Right.
And I think people, like you said, people will be looking forward to
Yeah.
having the time and being able to come out to dinner to their
Right.
favorite restaurant, Scarpa's, obviously, and enjoy just being with other people again.
Yes.
And I think that's really important.
Yes.
And I think we are learning what is really important now.
We are, for sure. Things have changed, but we for sure say every day that we just can't wait until our seats are filled again. We can hug our guests again and just go back to kind of like that family fun atmosphere that we had created over this past year. So we can't wait for that to happen.
Well, we look forward to having
Thank
Scarpa's
you.
open.
Yes.
Please make sure that you come and check out Scarpa's to-go menu.
For sure.
You can order something. I believe you can order online.
Yep. Our menus are online, and you can call every day. We're here.
So look forward to Scarpa's opening when our pandemic is over. And thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me.
Thank you
I appreciate
very much.
it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.